Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami, and welcome to the Camper Report Show.
And in this edition of the Camper Report Show, we're going to be talking to the creators of RV Spot Drop, who created this website because they got tired of being locked out on campground reservations.
That sounds pretty interesting. You know, I've got Curt Hemmeler coming back to the show, and we're going to talk about some exciting programs that the RV Technical Institute is putting together for prisons, correctional facilities, training these incarcerated people to become RV service technicians, actually becoming partners for RVTI. It's got great potential, and we got one right here in our backyard in New England.
And I'm looking forward to those stories and much, much more on this edition of
the Camper Report Show.
Sleeping on the short RV queen topper is as comfortable as sleeping at home. Now that we have the topper on there, it's made all the difference. It's really comfortable.
And the comfort comes from the fact that it's not too firm, nor is it too soft. It's kind of the right level of comfort for being out, especially when you're away from home.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to this edition of the Camper Report Show. We're in the news segment, and Bob Zagami is joining me. And Bob, there is so much going on. What do I want to say? The publicity for RVing is really going up and away, like in that, that song about the balloons.
Yep. I don't think you want me to sing it.
Yeah, no, we don't want to lose audience. But right. You know what? We are happy to announce that our parent company, RV Life, is partnering with Lippert Components to be involved heavily in the huge, gigantic, world-famous Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta this coming October in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
You know, I think that is one of those things that is on everybody's bucket list, and certainly on every RVer's bucket list, is to go to Albuquerque and witness that in person. You can see all the videos, you can see all the photographs, and I've never been there, but I'd love to go there. And maybe now that our parent company is sponsoring it, they'll send you and I out to cover it, John.
Yeah, they'll fly us from New England to Albuquerque
right.
in a balloon. Yeah,
right. Andy, are you listening?
Yeah. Well, the amazing part about that balloon festival, again, being so big, it's that there are 600 balloons. Now, I've been to them. I've been to several balloon festivals where you get 80 balloons or 100 balloons, but 600 balloons, and 100 of them special sizes, maybe being Tony the Tiger or all these balloons that are up there now that are just absolutely amazing. And the cool part about it, the balloons go up in the morning, sunrise, and sunset.
Right.
And you've got the entire day to visit displays. And I know Lippert is going to have some product availability all over the site for people to, check out their new product offerings.
So would this be considered a Macy's parade on steroids?
You know what? It probably would be. But the best part about it, you don't have to worry about cold weather at Thanksgiving time in New York City.
Well, that's true. But I was surprised they got 100 balloons that are different shapes, not just an air balloon.
Yep.
I don't think you could come up with 100 different shapes that you could actually make float up in the air.
Yeah.
We used to do one in my town of Hudson, Mass. And we used to get 10 balloons on a Saturday morning.
Right. Yeah, I know.
It was the same 10 every year too. But it's exciting that the RV industry is getting behind it. And they're going to have a series of presentations and events. And I know Sandy Ellingson has been working with Andy and with Jason Lippert, the folks at Lippert, on having a high profile presence. And this is the first of something that Andy's inaugurating in terms of RV bucket list experiences. It's another, he's so creative in terms of the things that we have on the RV Life network that this could be another, I'm sure it'll be another home run for him.
Yep. And if you go to rvlife.com, you can find out all about it. So that is in October. And it's in Albuquerque. And people come from all over the world. And it's certainly an RV mecca during that time. And speaking of going all over the United States, at least, our friends at RV Retailer are now expanding their reach with a new acquisition in the Northwest.
Yeah, they bought Blue Dog RV, which is a very well-respected dealer, as are most of the ones that RV Retailer has been purchasing and growing their network, and 7 locations that are added to it. So they're into another 12 states, I think, that they've added just recently
Yep.
to their network. So they're probably one of the faster growing independent and independent consolidators in our industry today. But it
Bob,
continues.
that was an interesting phrase there. Independent consolidators.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it is. Well, it is still a privately held company.
Yeah.
So I probably should have said privately held versus some that are publicly owned. But John Ferrando and his team at RV Retailer is making their presence known, and from one end of the country to the other. Yeah,
sure. And you know what? They will be selling a lot of RVs, and the RVs that they sell will be part of the statistics that we report every month on the new shipments. And the June shipments are absolutely amazing. 50,000, almost 51,000 units, up, Bob, 25% increase over the same time period last year. And what industry today, unless it's a COVID-related industry, you know, with healthcare or masks or gloves or sanitizers, can say that they're up 20% over any year prior? It really is amazing.
And when you take that's June of 2020 versus June of 2021, and that's the towable end. You know, when you look at the towables year to date in 2020, it was 159,000 units, and that was a lot. There are 271,000 units. This is just towables, fifth wheels, pop-ups, and what have you. 271,000 already, which is 70.5%. And if you then bundle everything between the towables and the motorhomes, we've gone from 176,000 roughly to a little over 300,000. And 300,000 is unheard of at the 6-month level. Right. And there is a forecast from the industry analyst that says we will do 576,000 units this year. And that's halfway through, there's 300,000, and that's 70% above what they did last year.
Yeah.
So, and granted, it was coming out of COVID, but those numbers are unheard of. No, we've never seen anything like that in this industry. We're only halfway through the year.
Right. You know, we said towables are up 22%, but motorized are up 60%. And, you know, with 5,000 units. So, the percentages can be kind of deceptive because of the 50,000, 45% are towables and 5% are motorized, but motorized certainly got a boost.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Now, once they sell all those towable units, they've got to tow them with something. And the news are out. There is news all around now about these electric powered pickup trucks. Talk a little bit about one of the concerns with that.
Well, this is a trend that is not going to go away. I mean, every manufacturer has an incredible, I'm talking multiple billions of dollars in research to bring out pickup trucks. They were already the fan favorite for many people, and they wanted pickup trucks, and they buy pickup trucks to tow something, and a lot of those people tow trailers. So the biggest question is going to be the range of the truck and how much weight it can tow based on the types of battery systems that they put in them. Even Nissan just announced a program the other day. Ram's got a program, Dodge, GMC, you name it. Everybody has a program. So if I'm a truck manufacturer and I understand the potential, especially with the numbers that we just had listed there, I've got a few trucks that they ought to be putting in Elkhart. And every time something comes off that production line, they ought to be taking it out to the test track and running around with it, whether it's a 20-foot travel trailer or a 40-foot fifth wheel, because people are going to ask. They're going to start to need, they're not going to stop making electric trucks. Society has driven this course for them. So then the question is, who's going to get to the RV audience quicker with a vehicle that meets their demands in terms of roadworthiness, in terms of weight management, in terms of how far can they go? And the one that does it first You know, again, if I'm an RV manufacturer, I've got trucks in Elkhart, but guess where else I've got them? Every consumer show come January.
Right.
So put them on display. Let the local deal give them, because people are going to want to ask questions. Well, let them ask them at the consumer show, because you're going to get additional feedback to improve that product before it ever hits the marketplace.
Yep.
And they've got to do it, and they got to do it right. They can't afford a mistake. Like I'm talking, some of these companies are putting $20 billion into their research of these trucks. This is going to be a massive investment, and it's going to have a tremendous impact on our industry, how well they do it.
Right. And the other important element that they have to take into account, and I think many times they don't, when you're talking about weight and towing capacity, et cetera, certainly with towables, you don't have to worry about occupants that are in the unit, because they're not going to be in back while it's being towed, but they need to fill those tanks. They need to assume that the black tanks and the gray tanks are not going to be empty at all times. They need to assume that the freshwater tanks are going to have weight to them. They need to assume that the refrigerator is going to have product in it, that the cabinets are going to have product in it, that there's going to be other personal items that RVers have. So rather than just towing an empty trailer that just came off the assembly line, they've got to take into account the additional weight that's going to be there. And the worst thing is, if you lose gas mileage because you're towing, I know my son-in-law with a boat loses gas mileage when towing. Okay, so the solution is you pull into a gas station, and in 5 minutes you pull out and you're back on the road. But if you've got to, spend an hour or two recharging your battery, and take, for example, up on the Maine Turnpike where you live, because that little lighthouse in the back is in the great state of Maine, and five pickup trucks pull in at the same time. Number one, do you have to disconnect the truck from the RV, from the towable to hook up? So you got all these factors to consider. So the electric people better do their research if they want to be considered major players in the RV marketplace.
Well, that's a good point, John, because if they think that the lines were long at the dump stations,
yep, or the gas station,
imagine what they're going to be at the charging stations.
Exactly. So that is a scoop on the news. We want to thank you so much for listening to that segment. We've got two great segments coming up. Stay with us, everybody. This is
the Camper Report Show.
We'll be right back.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Camper Report Show. And my guest today is Curt Hemmeler, and this is his second time around on the Camper Report Show. Curt, welcome. It's always great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Zagami.
So look there's been a lot of development and changes since you took over the RV Technical Institute and got it off the ground, and we're getting a lot of really good headlines, but you've been doing something on the public-facing side that I really like. And I know we got a project going up here in Massachusetts, but talk to us about your current plans, what you've done with educating incarcerated individuals in prisons, in correctional facilities, to train the future technicians. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, Julie, thank you for having me back. And so as you know, Bob, we've been at this for about 2.5 years now, during a pandemic, but we are at the phase of recruitment. And as you know, finding truck drivers, HVAC techs, nurses, and all that are a continuing issue. And the RV service technician is no different. And unfortunately, or fortunately, kind of fish in the same pond. So with that being said, we're now at the recruitment stage of RVTI, which is a part of our mission. And leaving no stone unturned, there is going back a few years ago, I started talking to different folks across the country in the correctional facilities. There's a lot of potential folks that are incarcerated for very minimal offenses. And in this case, the state of Texas reached out, and they have a school system called the Wyndham School District. It's a school district within the prison system of Texas. And we tried a pilot program with them, and it was a women's prison. And we picked this with purpose because obviously feedback with women in our industry as service techs, hands down, are very much desired and preferred for customer interaction and so forth, and the quality of what they do. So we piloted with them a few months back, and I'm happy to say I just recently participated 2 weeks ago in a graduation with 24 young ladies that will be coming out with their level 1 certification with, and these are folks that have been incarcerated. It has to be less than 2 years. So these are not major offenders. And we partnered with, actually they went and purchased a RV from a local dealer down there, a Camping World dealer. So they trained on that. We set them up as a learning partner, which is where we actually deliver. I apologize for that. Where we actually deliver the education to them. Then we train their instructor to deliver the education. And once they come out of their time in the prison, they're fully employable, and we help them with that.
Tell us how that came about. Did they find out about the RV industry and the potential and RVTI, or did you reach the other way and say, where was the intermediary that brought this to fruition? Because it's the basis of something that you're going to be able to grow tremendously.
Yeah, no, it actually just was through, obviously, every day I'm looking for different channels. From my past experience in the education system, I actually had some contacts around the country that deal with corrections. And knowing that, I kind of backdoored through Connie, who used to work with us as in our TNT program, actually had a contact in Texas. And, I don't know if folks know this, but Texas, unfortunately or fortunately, has the largest incarcerated system. So if you're going to go looking, go to the biggest first. And as a result of this, I will actually be presenting on August 24th or 25th to the entire state of Texas and their correctional facilities. And with the success of the Wyndham program we just did, using that and potentially piloting it across all of Texas. And so that's kind of how it worked. And then from there, what has happened is we actually graduate students here in Indiana as well through the prison system. Obviously, you talked about the Massachusetts project that's in play, and then also the state of Florida. And so it's basically how recruitment works. When I go and I present what we have a great product, and then I present that really the cost on their end is so minimal, other than providing an instructor. And then I create the partnership with the local dealers around in that area or that state that will help provide the product so that they can train on it. And the idea is that they would train level 1, which is the PDI level. As you remember, it's a 40-hour class. So, and what we found, some other things that they were really happy about is when I went down there, it's a school system within the prison system, and folks that were in other programs down there suddenly were very much turned on to what we did. And because we come across electrical, plumbing, all the things you find in a house, it also helps feed other interest. And that's what makes our program so terrific. And I don't know if we're going to talk about the high school recruitment effort as well, but that is the same concept and the same kind of focus is being used for recruitment purposes.
Well, we get to that. Yeah, in terms of the Massachusetts project, what John DePietro brought to us is they, in a conversation that we had with them, they were sold in about 10 minutes. Just they couldn't believe the statistics on the RV industry, and they have so much opportunity right in their backyard. So yeah, my work with the New England RV Dealers Association is going to be critical, because our dealers, every one of my dealers needs a technician. Every RV company, every RV dealership in the country could hire more technicians. Now, just look at figures. Look at the figures this morning. Through June, we sold 300,000 units.
Number 3 most in demand job in 2020, and that's not in our industry quoting that. That's a national company quoting that. I think that's where you're right. I mean, the minute it takes me all of 5 minutes and I've got somebody's ear. RVIA does committee week each year. Unfortunately, we did it last year, but the year before, where we sit with each state representative and so forth. As a new guy coming in, I was there more as an observer my first year, but I can tell you, I definitely put in the plug for RVTI and what the industry had just set up, and immediately their ears perk. And because it's such the ideal program for helping solve the national skill gap as well. It's a program that goes across all the trades, and the fact that the industry is behind it and supporting it allows them to see that we're not just asking somebody else to help. We've got a product, we've invested in it, and we can make this thing work at a very low cost for you, which turns a person into a good citizen for your district or your state or whatever the situation might be.
The opportunities for the incarcerated people is fantastic because they get it, for the first time, well, I wouldn't say for the first time, but in a long time, with the credibility of RVTI, we actually have an established platform that we can talk about. Before we had RVTI and the programs that you put together, we all talked about it, but separately one-on-one with somebody else. And there wasn't that collective body that as an educator that you were able to put together and say, look, this is the opportunity, this is how we do it. But more importantly, this is the result of what we do and how it's going to benefit the incarcerated people. But jump onto that high school story and tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah. So as I said, no stone unturned. Excuse me. The second strategic initiative is to also look at our high school population. And this would be, there's over 24,000 high schools across the country. And if you think about that, my personal goal would be just to get, if I get one person a year out of half of that, I mean, we'll never have a service technician issue again. But, my background has been in obviously the school business, and specifically I spent my first decade in recruitment and specifically on that, high schools. And, in the very beginning, I hate to say how long ago it was when I started it, but in the beginning, it was much easier to get in and talk to schools. And the gimmick, if you may, was to go in and talk about something that's useful to those students. Usually it was high school juniors or seniors, and then talk 10, 15 minutes about the school you work for, obviously to try to recruit students in. Well, that became definitely more challenging over the years as more players and school is limited on time and all this. And then of course, there was a lot of restrictions and security issues that come up. And so that old business model has been and will be much more challenging. You add COVID to it. So you have to come from a different angle. And the different angle that I choose and I've been working on for a couple of years is the school counselors. Okay, school counselors in every state have associations. They have groups that they're a part of at the state level and national level. So last year was when I was going to actually start it, but because of COVID, we had to push it to this year. They hold a national convention, and there are over 5,000 people total that attend this, both in person and virtually. And we went in with an RV. We were a sponsor within the conference, and we had the opportunity to expose these thousands of school counselors to the RV industry. And 50% of the time, they were all looking at like, I never thought about this, that you actually, there's jobs in this industry. And that's where I called up my Go RVing family mates and said, hey, you guys have done a great job, and here's validation. People don't think about working because, they think they never break, and it's just the lifestyle. I said, so 50% of the time you're educating these folks about that there is opportunity. The other part is 50% of the time they're like, hey, I'd like to buy one of these. And so that was a little residual extra that came out of it. But the idea is that we were there. We would be the catalyst to bring the education to the K through 12 system. They would provide an instructor. We would then connect the local dealers around that high school or that VOTEC or whatever it is to provide the product. They too would teach level 1. Now, in this case, they could go further and teach level 2 for the more aggressive schools. It can be done in a junior year or senior year. But really where RVTI is, we give them the product, the curriculum. They provide an instructor or find an instructor. The dealer gives them a product to train on. Obviously, we're here as a nonprofit to provide equipment through our manufacturer supplier connections if needed. But the relationship is established so that there will be a constant feed of new recruits, and they're coming out already certified.
No,
So
that is the thing that excites me. And when you told us about the people not only wanting to know about training, but wanting to buy one because they could readily see what it would do for their family life, for their vacation style and everything else. One of the things that I talk to our dealers about is, you know, we are very proud of the fact that we sold over 500,000 units last year. They're projecting 576,000 this year. One of the things that sometimes people lose sight of is if we are selling, let's stick with the 500,000. If we're selling 500,000, then I would argue that there are 5 million people who are looking. We're grabbing about 10% of them. So when you think about that, then we need to focus on the 90% that are going to eventually come into the lifestyle. So yes, we are doing very well. But when you look at it from a career perspective, I mean, we're going to be on a 5, 10, 20-year run where somebody getting into the industry right now as a technician is going to have a valid career path with tremendous upside potential for them, whether it be from the high school or the incarcerated people. But that's the potential of what this industry is going to be able to deliver.
Oh yeah, hands down. And you know, the luxury of this is, and you tapped on it, is remember, these are school counselors. They have summers off. They're our typical RVer, and you know, and they have families. A lot of them don't. You know, they're not millionaires, so they, you know, we have, as I was sharing with them, there's a coach for everyone. But you know, using your numbers you just provided, 10% of 5,000 people, we sold 500 units at this event, and that's the national level. Each state has their own association, so this is part of the kind of the waterfall effect or the drip campaign that we will start here and actively work, is we will now break it down to the state level and start going and working with partners. And this is where being a learning partner with RVTI will be a benefit, because that's who we're going to first to ask, hey, do you have a unit or do you have something? Here's what we're going to do. Can you provide it? And of course, they immediately jump on board because it's everybody needs techs.
Well, but don't forget too, this is a consumer-facing show, and you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to get this message out there is all of our customers, all of our consumers that are interested in the RV industry live within their communities. They know the high schools that we should be talking to.
Yeah.
They know the
For
prison systems, the correctional facilities that we should be talking to. And you know, you and I could talk about this for a couple of days, but our guest this morning has been Curt Hemmeler from the RV Technical Institute. Any closing comments, Curt? You know, we'll have you back again. I'm going to bring you back once a year, whether you want to come or not. But any closing comments?
I will always come on your show, Bob. You know, as a lot of folks may or may not know, I've been in the industry now 2.5 years. I've almost earned my first stripe. And, you know, you have always been a huge supporter of what we're doing here, obviously, for the reasons you know. I mean, this is for the consumer experience. This is why RVTI was created. I'm always open to anybody that, you know, that wants to know more. I think we've got a great product. It's easily deliverable online. So if you do have a connection at a school or a prison or a church, I mean, we also have other community colleges we're partnering with. Definitely, you know, get a hold of Bob, get a hold of me, and I will be more than happy to help set something up. And it's, you know, the benefit to everything too is it's usually no cost. I mean, there's money from state, there's money from local localities. There's industry money there, you know, that is out there. It's never been a better time to be a student right now. It's the most affordable it's ever been. And like you said, this is a lifelong career.
I agree. And we'll put all that information down below for our viewers. Curt, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show today, and we'll see you down the road.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the US and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard, pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and you know, one of the things that I've been saying for the last year as we put these shows together is that you meet the nicest and the coolest people on the RV path. You know, wherever you go with your RV, there's always cool people to bump into. Well, I bumped into these people on the RV internet path and have found that they have a very interesting story. And like so many people that are trying to travel today, they had trouble finding a campground. So we're going to tell you the story about how they started RV Spot Drop. But first, let me welcome them in. And they are Jennifer and Kendall Jennings. They joined me today, not from Canada. We're going to get back to Canada, but from Mexico. And welcome to the Camper Report Show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I guess this officially spans 3 countries now, because you're from Canada, I'm from the United States, and now you've gone from north of the border twice to south of the border. But tell us a little bit about how long you've been RVing, because you're starting to fit into the mold of the new full-time RVer, where people in their 20s or early 30s are hitting the road and not wanting to do the corporate thing like possibly your parents and all other family members did. So Jennifer, why don't we start with you first? Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and where you're at now.
Yeah, so I mean, I started in, I guess, even last year, actually, a year ago, I was in the corporate world. And, you know, we had made the decision that we were going to prioritize spending time together over working apart. And so we jumped into RV life. Before we went full time, I mean, we went full time July 5th was the day we left Calgary with our RV. I mean, I didn't have any real experience before we went full time. You know, we used to do the summer trips when I was like a teenager. We had a hybrid RV, but we weren't really allowed in it during the day. We had to vacate the RV and go spend time outside. But that was really all my experience. So then we decided to move into it, and here we are now. We live in Mexico and we work online full time. So it's pretty exciting.
We're going to get to your business in just a minute, but Kendall, tell us your story. You started at over on the eastern end of Canada.
I started, on the eastern side of Canada, Prince Edward Island. You know, I grew up family of, there's me and my 2 sisters. We camped all the time since we were young. Started out, you know, family of 5 in a 5 or 6 man tent. We eventually had a very small travel trailer that we would use then, but I mean, as Jen mentioned, it was kind of just big enough for, you know, for 5 people to sleep in. But we did the weekend camping trips in the summertime. Once I was old enough and out on my own, I went back to the tent camping and moved. I left Prince Edward Island about probably almost 10 years ago now. And as soon as I got to Alberta, I was kind of back into the camping, but just tent camping. And then when Jennifer and I met through work, we camping, it was something, you know, it was a common interest, something we started doing immediately, really, as soon as we met each other. Again, just kind of a 2-man tent, no camp stove or anything. We were really just kind of walk into the woods and rough it for the weekend. We eventually did upgrade to we bought a small early 70s little 10 or 11 foot camper that we restored actually, and we used that again, you know, just kind of for weekend camping trips. You might got away for 4 days at a time if we were lucky. Didn't go too far with it just because we were limited with our time together to weekends. So I mean, it made it as far as British Columbia from Alberta, but yeah, and then we upgraded to our current 30-foot travel trailer that we have now, and
You're in now.
we live in it full time now.
Yep. So you've gone from Canada, you're in Mexico now. The question that a lot of people have when they talk about the timing is, how did COVID play into your travel plans? Did they expedite them? Did they slow them down? Did they stop them? How did that work for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, we had planned, our plan was to leave June, like early June. And then COVID obviously happened, and there was a lot of question about if we were going to proceed with our plans to, to start full-timing and travel, just because of the way things were going. And we were kind of like waiting to see if COVID would go away, because we thought it would be over soon. So we did have to delay going full-time a month. So instead of June 5th, we left July 5th. But that was kind of it as far as COVID. I mean, we spent the first 3 months of full-timing in southern BC in this really small town. And, there was no cases in the county, so there was no restrictions. So we kind of forgot that COVID existed, unless we left, we went back to Alberta, and we went back to Calgary where we were living.
And Alberta and British Columbia, are they adjacent provinces, or is there somebody stuck in between?
No, that's correct. They're attached.
Yeah. You know what? A lot of the people are not familiar with for whatever reason, the Eastern people aren't familiar with the Western provinces. And I know at one time I could go from British Columbia and go right over to PEI without missing, but somehow I always miss Saskatchewan or Manitoba?
Manitoba.
Yeah, one of those. So I get those two mixed up.
And we even forget Manitoba sometimes.
Yeah.
But the interesting part about RVing is that you get to learn your geography from that aspect of it. So you eventually came through the U.S. into Mexico, and you said the reason that you were able to make the crossings is because you were moving to Mexico, right?
That's right. Yeah. So actually going back to the COVID a little bit, our original plan was to leave in June and travel from Alberta across Canada to Prince Edward Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where I'm from, kind of spend the summer. As soon as it started cooling down, we were going to start heading south through Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, make our way as far as Florida, come across, through Texas, New Mexico, California, and then down the Baja Peninsula. But because of COVID, that travel, especially to Prince Edward Island, was going to be very difficult. And so we made the decision to just try and make it more or less a beeline to our final destination.
Okay.
So we had planned the year before we came down. We had our location where we knew we were going to take the RV to in Mexico. So we have an address here.
And you're in Baja, Mexico. You're in south of California, right? You're not in the Mexico that's close to Texas.
That's correct. Yeah, right. We're south of
San Diego,
of California. Yeah.
How far into from the border are you, sir?
We're pretty much as far as you can go to the end of the peninsula.
Oh, way down.
Yeah. So the very tip would be Cabo, and we're about 2 hours north of Cabo. So we're a couple of days drive once you cross the border.
Okay.
So we had our location picked out for the RV previous to this. So we had a fixed address. We had so we were able to have utilities to put in our names so that we could show residency here. And we had also applied for our Mexican residency. And so we had that in place also.
Now, what did the family members say when you decided not just to go to Florida, or not just to Texas or Alabama, but to Mexico? What did they say? What was their response, Jennifer?
I mean, my family was really supportive and really excited. My mom actually just bought a house 10 minutes from where we live right now. So, I mean, they were very excited. My family really likes Mexico. It was kind of hard to leave them just because, we were pretty close. So, we are pretty close, but they were obviously really, really excited. You know, it's something different. It's an adventure. And I think that they're a little bit even jealous that they aren't able to do, you know, the same. I mean, I guess my mom just bought a house and she plans to spend 6 months down here. So
Okay. Especially between November and April, they're pretty jealous.
yeah,
right?
exactly. As soon as the snow flies, she's going to be on a plane.
Kendall, how about your situation?
I'd say they're, well, my mother anyways, was a little more shocked, I think, and unsure of it. I'm sure she probably still stays up every night wondering where I'm at. But yeah, I think they were supportive of it, of course. But yeah, I think it was a little bit more of a shock, not necessarily being away, because I had left Prince Edward Island. So I mean,
yeah,
for the last 10
You're
years,
already
we
away.
haven't had constant contact, right? It's been summer visits and stuff. I do have one sister who's in Alberta, so that wasn't as much of an issue for them, because we've been making that work for the last 10 years. But yeah, going to Mexico, just kind of the unknown of Mexico. I guess or my parents anyways, had never traveled down here, so you know, it was kind of an unknown world to them, just what they would see on the news, I guess.
So Jennifer, is RV spot drop pretty much your thing? Is that pretty much your baby, or do you work on that together, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Kendall definitely helps out with aspects of it. He is actually handling all of the social media, which is so nice. But I mean, creating it was more or less.
I give full credit to Jennifer.
So tell us what it is, because the name is interesting itself. So RVspotdrop.com.
Yeah. So RV Spot Drop. So we experienced, like, when COVID first happened, and the pandemic first happened, there were so many RVers who were displaced or who were scrambling to find, you know, proper accommodations. This was a huge problem, especially in Canada. I mean, there were so many snowbirds who normally go to Arizona or Florida and who weren't able to. And I mean, RVing in Canada in the wintertime is not something to take lightly. Like, it's cold and it's really hard. And there's very limited spots in Canada that aren't freezing. So, you know, we noticed that these people were, you know, scrambling to find a site. And so we thought up the idea of RV Spot Drop. So members, our full-time RVers or weekend warriors, can sign up for the service, and they let us know where they want to go, when they want to be there. There's an option for if you're looking for a full-time site. And then we have partner campgrounds across the US and Canada. And what they do is they send us those unsold sites or cancellation, and then members get an email directly into their inbox with a spot. Okay. So it's kind of nice. It's an RV spot dropped into your inbox, right?
So instead of the camper itself, the RVer themselves having to call all these places, they just hook up with you, and you've got a group of campgrounds that let you know when there's availability.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of having
with the situation being now with 50,000 new RVers and 56 million people expected to be camping just in the US this summer or 2021, so many people are finding that not the for sale sign, but the no vacancy sign is up there. So is there a cost to belong?
Yeah, so members pay an annual fee of $9.99, which is, you know, super, super affordable, I think. Yeah, and our partner campgrounds, it doesn't cost them anything to join. We really wanted to promote bringing on campgrounds, and make it obviously really appealing for them. So it doesn't cost them anything. But yeah, $9.99, and you get campgrounds into your inbox, and you don't have to spend hours on the phone getting told no availability.
So I'm looking for a place in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, from the July 20th to August 20th, in that time period right there. And everywhere I've called, Jennifer, I've called 7 campgrounds. They all tell me they're filled up. If I join up with you guys for $9.99, that's not $9.99. That's not $9.99 each time I use the service. It's
No.
right
That's for an annual membership.
for a whole year. Okay. That's an excellent value, because if you put any value on your time,
Exactly.
it's no fun calling these campgrounds. Some will call you back, some that won't. The ones that have archaic systems don't even have answering machines, and some that are so sophisticated they put you into a electronic queue, and you're waiting for long periods of time. So how long has the program been available, and how's your success been so far?
So we launched May 1st. So I mean, it's been less than 2 months. But I'm very happy with how things are going. We have a lot of great campgrounds that have signed on. And we have, members joining every day. So it's building, and I'm really, really excited about where things are going. I mean, I have high hopes for the summer, and really just proving that it works and is valuable for people.
It's great. It's certainly new. I haven't not heard of that before. I mean, I've heard of Harvest Host. I've heard of Boondockers Welcome. Those programs there, which are alternatives to campgrounds. But this is the actual campground. And does the person who, does your member who, you tell me something about Myrtle Beach, and you say, okay, go to Ocean Lakes. Am I going to pay a higher rate because I went through you, or not
Absolutely not. We don't add a markup to the reservation. So when you get an email from us, it's a link directly to the campground's booking system. So there's no middleman or anything like that. You book directly through them. We just facilitate getting that information about that campground to you. But that's it. There's no, there's no extra fee.
That's super. So we want to thank you so much. I can't believe our time is, we're actually over time, but we want to thank you so much. Do you mind if we check back with you in a few months, see how you're doing? And
yes, I would love that.
Maybe you'll have some crazy stories to tell us about, one person wanted to go to this place or that place or whatever the case may be. But we want to thank Jennifer and Kendall Jennings from RV. I always say it the wrong way. I want to make sure I got it right, so I wrote it down. RVspotdrop.com. You can see it down at the bottom of the screen, and just click on that, take a look. Membership is $9.99 a year. It's ridiculously low priced, and we want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy day to
thank you so much for having us.
And want to wish you the best.